All right, hey everybody. Glad you guys are glad you joined us. Thanks for being here. Paul Feinberg, what's up, man? I think you've been at every single one of these webinars. It's pretty awesome. Just want to welcome you guys. Glad you guys are here. We're doing our summer webinar series for Loop Community, and we're really just trying to cover a variety of topics to help you do what you do better, and help you guys with different topics as far as controllers go, or Ableton Live. Yesterday, Christian Ponsford did an awesome webinar about syncing Ableton Live and Pro Presenter. If you missed it, you should definitely get on our YouTube channel and find that video and watch it, because it's very interesting stuff. But also check out our Facebook page. We've got a bunch of events throughout the next month and a half that you can RSVP to and join us for. But anyways, today we're going to talk about Looptimus. And if you're here watching today, go ahead and type in the chat window if you're currently using a Looptimus controller. I'm very curious how many of you guys are actually using one. And if you're not using a Looptimus, go ahead and type into the chat window what kind of controller you are using. What I want to talk about today is I'm going to show you just some of the cool things you can do with the Looptimus Foot Controller, and why we developed it, why we designed it the way we did. Hopefully the camera here on the screen is okay. You can see enough on there. I would recommend watching it in HD 720p, so you can just change your YouTube settings to make it 720, and also watch it full screen, and it's going to look and sound a lot better for you. So check that out. All right, so hey, let's go get started. Let me just talk about, first of all, why we developed a Looptimus Foot Controller. And really, the Looptimus came out of a need. There's a lot of MIDI foot controllers out there. That's nothing new. MIDI foot controllers have been around for years. However, I found as a worship leader that a lot of the MIDI foot controllers out there were crazy complicated to use. Super hard to set up. You had to use extra software to program it and to get it all going, and it was just a total pain. Really hard to get going with Ableton Live. And then also, we needed a foot controller that worked with a lot of different settings and a lot of different types of software. Not just Ableton Live, but Pro Tools, Logic, MainStage. And we wanted it to, just be able to work very simply. So we developed Looptimus because there was nothing out on the market for that. And so I kind of got tired. We were getting support requests at Loop Community constantly. People asking us, how do I program this pedal to do this? How do I get this pedal to work? This pedal won't work. How do I get it to fire my tracks? And I kind of got tired of answering all these support requests. I thought, well, forget this. Let's just build our own pedal and do it right. And so that's what we did. And here's Looptimus. And what's amazing is about a year ago we started a Kickstarter to build it, and we needed to raise $50,000 in 30 days. I think it was 30 days or maybe 35 days, and wow, it was quite an ordeal, a lot of work. But what's amazing is we ended up raising $70,000, so 20 over our goal, and there was definitely a need and a want for a pedal like this. And so here it is. It's actually sitting here in front of me, and we've shipped out tons of them, literally all over the world. And when I say all over the world, I mean all over the world. We've shipped them to Africa, we've sent them to France, Australia, we've sent them to England, London, we've sent them all over the United States. There's guys that are using it in bands, like Matt Redman's drummer uses one. They're literally just all over the place. And it's been so cool to watch on Instagram of people posting about Looptimus. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of show you how some stuff you can do with Looptimus. And what's really cool is Looptimus comes with, there's 3 different modes that Looptimus has. And we're going to look, first of all, at default mode. So let's just first look at the controller and what we're actually seeing here. Let me move my microphone a little bit out of the screen so we're not seeing that. So let's just look at the controller. I'm going to look at the back, and you'll notice that we've got a 5-pin MIDI jack, a USB jack. You can just plug a USB cable in. 9-volt power. This is good for if you don't want to drain the battery on your computer dramatically or on your iPad or something. And this is an expression pedal jack, which we'll talk about that. So it's made up of aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum, so you could run this thing over and it would be totally fine. The buttons are high quality. They're also raised in the back, so your feet don't hit. When you're going for a back button, you're not also hitting the front button, or vice versa. And yeah, it's super, super great quality. Okay, so let's look at default mode, and this is what we're going to look at for if we're going to use Looptimus with Ableton Live. All I'm going to do is, or even any MIDI software, but let's look at Ableton. You plug in Looptimus via USB cable, and first thing you want to do, and Looptimus is going to power up, which is awesome. You can also change the brightness of this LED if you want. To do that, when you're plugging in Looptimus, just hold down the B and E button at the same time. Let's go ahead and plug it in. Oh, where's the jack? There it is. Hold down B and E as you plug this in, and the screen, it's going to say B stands for brightness, and now I can use the next and previous buttons to choose the brightness of the screen. That is good for if you're running this on an iPad. The brighter the screen, the faster it's going to drain a battery. So anyways, just for this demo, let's just turn it all the way up. Hit stop to exit. Alright, so first thing you want to do is set it up in Ableton Live. So I'm going to go to Live and go to Preferences. And under Preferences, there's a tab here that says MIDI. I'm going to click on MIDI, and it's going to show me all of my devices that are currently plugged into my computer. And you'll see Looptimus shows up as an input. And let's talk about these three buttons here. So track means you're going to use Looptimus to play. And we're going to talk about that later with pads, because you can use Looptimus to actually play pads. We're going to use it as an instrument. I'm going to leave track turned off for now. Sync is if you're going to sync up two different devices together in Live, which we're not doing right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn on remote, and what remote does is it tells Looptimus, or it tells Ableton to use Looptimus as a foot controller or a remote control for Ableton Live. So we have that turned on. By the way, if you guys ever have any questions at all throughout this, go ahead and just type them in the comment box, and I can answer them for you. Jordan, welcome from Arvada, Colorado. All right, so we've got it set up. Now, all you have to do to map these buttons to your songs in Ableton is click in the top right corner on a button that says MIDI. And anything that you see that turns blue can be assigned to a MIDI note. And the way that the way that Looptimus is set up is we're in default mode right now. And default mode has 20 different banks, or you could even call them pages. And I can use the next and previous buttons to change those pages or those banks. So I've got 20 different banks, and each bank has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These all send individual MIDI notes. If I go to bank 2, it's a new set of MIDI notes. Bank 3, another new set of MIDI notes. Bank 4, and so forth. So there's a couple ways we can use Looptimus, and I'm going to show you how this works out. So we're going to first just go to bank 1, and here's how one way you could use Looptimus. I'm going to go to bank 1, and we're going to assign song 1 here, song 2 here, song 3, song 4, 5, and 6, and then the stop button. This button sends one individual MIDI note. So I'm going to set this to be the global stop in Ableton Live, up here in the center of the screen. So let's go to MIDI. Anything that turns blue can be mappable. So our first song is Lay Me Down. I'm going to click on Lay Me Down and hit button 1. And you're going to see that it assigned that button to Lay Me Down. The next song, Only King Forever, is going to be button 2, so I just click that, or B. This is Amazing Grace is going to be bank 1, C. Open Up the Heavens is going to be bank 1, D. Rock Won't Move, E. Wake, F. And then our stop button, let's click on the global stop button. I'm going to hit the stop button. And you see that it assigned that MIDI note to Ableton's stop button. When you leave MIDI mode, now those buttons are mapped. So I can hit button 1. It's going to play song 1. Let me go and turn it up a little bit. Let me hit stop. And it's going to stop the tracks. Let's hit button 2 and start song 2.
3.
And obviously you'd be using your feet for this. I'm just using my hands because it's on my desk right now. Actually, I guess you could use it as a hand controller. Put it back by your keyboard player or something. Button 3 is going to be song 3.
3, 4.
Hit stop, song 4, 5, 6, and etc. Now what you could do is then do another page and then have songs 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then song 13, 14, 15, 16, and so forth. It really depends on how you want to set it up. So let's talk about another way that people are using default mode, and that is using one bank per song. So this would be song 1, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and then stop, or blank. Maybe this is just a click. So I have Forever Rain set up like that, the blue tracks down here. And let's go ahead and go back to MIDI mode. A quick way to clear your MIDI mappings is just over here on the left-hand side of Ableton Live to highlight them and then just hit the delete key. And now all those MIDI mappings are erased. And let's click on Forever Rain. I'm going to hit the intro button to assign the click there. Let's go ahead and do verse is going to be here. Chorus is here. Interlude is button D. Bridge. And then we'll just do a blank scene for button F. And then again, our stop button is here. And let's close MIDI out. I'm going to turn the metronome on so we can hear what we're doing. And let's go ahead and start this song. So we're in song 1. Oh, actually, let's assign song 2. So let's go back to MIDI. Let's go to bank 2. And This Is Amazing Grace is going to be song 2. And then next bank, which is song 3, that's going to be Rock Won't Move. And then our next song is Here for our Awake My Soul. Cool. So my whole set list has been assigned. What's cool about this is that you don't have to really have your songs in order in Live. You just have to assign your controller in the order you want to play them. So let's go back to song 1. We'll start the click. And then I can hit the verse button, and it's going to go to the verse. I could hit it again to start again. Here we go. You are good when there's nothing. And if you want to go to the chorus, hit that. Oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running. Let's go to the bridge. My heart will sing no other name. And then let's go back to the chorus. And oh, I'm running to your arms. When that song's over, I can go here to just bring it down to a click. If I want to do a down chorus, hit stop, and then let's go to our next song.
Intro.
And start our next song.
3, 4.
When that song's done, I can go to song 3. Start song 3.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
When that song's done, I can go to song 4. Whoops. Hit stop. An important thing to note here is that the stop button sends the same MIDI note no matter what bank you're in. So technically, this actually doesn't have to be stop. You could make it tap tempo, you could make it a mute button, you could make it anything you want. Just the important thing to know is that no matter what bank you're in, this button always sends the same MIDI note, which is why no matter what bank I was in, it was still stopping the tracks. So that's important. Another really cool feature of default mode is something we call all access mode. And inside of all access, what all access mode is it's a bank that you can get to from anywhere at any time, quickly. The reason this is important is because let's just say you wanted to go up to like bank 6. Let's just say on bank 7, you wanted to apply like, let's go ahead and assign the metronome button, let's go ahead and assign the play button, let's assign the record button, and the stop button, or anything really. The problem with that is that if I need to get to those play, stop, record, or tap tempo buttons, I'd have to scroll really fast all the way to bank 7, hit the buttons, and then go back all the way back to whatever song I'm on. And it's just a lot of scrolling back and forth. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to MIDI mapping mode. Let's go ahead and just clear all those mappings. Start from scratch. And what's cool about all access mode is I'm going to go ahead and just hold down the next button for about 1 second. And this brought us into all access bank. This is a bank that you can access from anywhere at any time. So now this is like special bank, and this bank has 6 notes as well that you can assign to whatever you want. And then when you hit previous or next, it takes you back to whatever bank you were previously on. So I could be on song 10 or 11, go to all access bank, hit whatever buttons I need to do, and then go back, and I'm still back in bank 11. I didn't have to scroll through. So the way that that is helpful is, let's just say you have your whole set list assigned, but in all access mode, I actually want to, let's go ahead and assign this one to metronome on and off button. Let's assign this one to a tap tempo. And let's assign this one to play. Cool. And now I want to also assign our songs. So let's do a song 1 is going to be Lay Me Down. Song 2 is Only King Forever. And song 3 is This Is Amazing Grace. And then stop is stop. Alright, cool. Now it's mapped, so I can play a song.
Intro. 2, 3,
I can go to
4.
all access mode. And I can tap in. So I'm actually tapping in a tempo, which is kind of cool. You can also turn the metronome on and off here now. And then I can always get back
2, 3,
to my songs and be able to start and stop my songs. So that's really helpful because you can jump around really quickly. Okay, so default mode. Now what default mode also has is you can choose your MIDI channel. This is important if you've got a lot of MIDI devices going. Right now we only have a Looptimus plugged in, but if we had a keyboard plugged in as well, you wouldn't want those clashing. Looptimus is basically sending MIDI notes, which is the same thing a MIDI keyboard sends. So what you wouldn't want to have happen is when you hit a note on your keyboard, it sends maybe the same note that a song is assigned to, and then it messes everything up. So you don't want those two things clashing. So the way to solve that is you put them on different MIDI channels. And Looptimus can operate on 16 different MIDI channels, which means you could have 16 different Looptimuses at the same time, which would be insane. If anybody's doing that, go ahead and type that in the chat box. But to change your MIDI channel, you just hold the previous button down. And now you can use the next and previous button to choose what channel you're going to use. 1 is the default. Once you've chosen your channel, just hit stop, and you're good. And that's it. It's very easy to change MIDI channels. Let's look at one more thing in default mode, and that is expression pedal. So we've got our expression pedal jack here. What we're going to do is we're going to plug a volume pedal in so that I can turn up and turn down volume. So let me go and pull out an expression pedal. I've got one here. This is an what is this? This is an M-Audio EXP expression pedal. It's like 30 bucks on Amazon or something. Really cheap. And it looks like this. Let me see if I can get that in the window. And it's just a volume pedal that goes up and down. I'm going to plug this in to the back of Looptimus into the expression pedal jack. And now I can assign this pedal to whatever volume knob or pan knob I want. So let's go back to MIDI mode, and I'm going to assign it to the main master volume. I'm just going to click on master volume and then move the pedal, and you'll see that it assigned that pedal, which is actually, it's a CC message. That's the MIDI term. And let's go and close out MIDI, and now you can see on my foot pedal, you can see I'm controlling the volume of Ableton Live. So let's go and start song 2. Actually, I don't think I assigned anything to song 1. There we go, song 1.
4.
And I can turn the volume up and down of this, which is pretty sweet. So you could assign this to anything. You could bring in like a pad, use this to just control the volume of your tracks. An important thing to know in Ableton is you can set the maximum for a MIDI. So I'm going to click on MIDI. I'm going to click on this, and over here you can actually choose the minimum and maximum value. I like to set this to 0 just because then it'll make it so this pedal, watch, it won't let me go over 0 now, which is good because now it won't peak in audio. Alright, let's move on. I'm going to show you, let's go right to program change mode. Now to change modes in Looptimus, all you do is you hold down the stop button for a few seconds, and it's going to bring up the mode. So right now it says we're in program change mode. So well actually I think we were in default, and then I think I held it a little bit longer, so it went to program. Let's go to program change mode, which is PC. Default is what we were in. It says DEF. Let's go to PC mode and hit stop. Now the thing about PC mode is it works exactly like default mode. Exactly. So it still sends notes. Everything I just showed you, it works exactly in program change mode, the same way. The only difference is that program change mode, allows you to assign program changes to whatever button you want. Now, let's talk about what program changes are. This is just like MIDI 101. Program changes are, so let's just say you've got a keyboard or a guitar pedal that has a bunch of different patches or presets. Now, those patches or presets, right, there's like hundreds of them. There's like all sorts of different sounds or different presets in a pedal. Well, what you can do is you can tell Ableton, you can tell Looptimus that, okay, when I hit this button, send the default MIDI note like it was before, but also send a program change. So I want to say, I hit this button, it's going to start a song, but it's also going to change my guitar pedal or my keyboard to go to a certain program or preset number. And the way you assign the preset number is you just hold this button down for a few seconds.
2, 3, 4.
Let me go and stop the track. And now you can use the next and previous buttons to choose which preset number you want it to fire. And I think it goes all the way up to, let's go backwards to see, 127. So there's a lot of presets you could choose. So to demo this, I'm going to show you, I'm going to open up Guitar Rig. I'm going to go, go to Create, Insert MIDI Track, and I'm going to pull in a third-party preset called Guitar Rig. And Guitar Rig, you'll be able to see it has a bunch of presets here. Here's all the presets, right? These are all the different sounds. This is the same thing in GarageBand or Logic or MainStage. Bunch of different sounds here. So to get around these sounds, you know, maybe you want a different sound for song 1, and then song 2 is a completely different sound down here. This makes it easy so you can get around to different sounds quickly. So first of all, let's go ahead and assign our MIDI notes. So I'm going to go to MIDI, and let's assign our songs. So Lay Me Down is going to be this button. Only King Forever is this button. This is Amazing Grace is this button. Open Up the Heavens is this button. And then let's go ahead and assign our stop button. Alright, so we're good. Those are all assigned. I'm going to delete those other from all access mode. So we've got our 4 songs, 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Intro 2, 3, 4.
But now we also want to assign the program changes. So song 1, I want it to be program
Intro,
change.
2,
Let me go
3,
ahead and stop.
4. Intro 2.
Program change, I want this to be preset 5, and I want this
Intro
one
2,
to be preset
4.
10, and I want this one to be preset.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Just ignore the audio for now. Actually, I can just turn it down. And I want this one, let's hold it down, and I want this one to be preset, let's just make it like 30. Cool. So now it's assigned. You would need to talk to your guitar player and see what preset they want, because you can just plug a 5-pin MIDI cable out of this right into their guitar pedal, and it will send these program changes there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit song 1, and you're going to notice that in this list it's going to change the preset, but it's also going to start our song. Whoop, let me go and turn it up.
Intro 2, 3, 4. Intro 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so it's not changing.
Intro 2, 3, 4. Intro 2, 3, 4. Intro 2.
Why is it not
3,
changing?
4.
I think it's because, let's go to Live Preferences. And it might be because Looptimus doesn't, we don't have track turned on. So let's go ahead and turn track on and see if that solves that issue. I'm going to hit song 1,
Intro 2,
and there you go. Now it's changing the presets. So that'll always get you. You got to make sure your Ableton preferences are set right. So stop is going to stop our song. Button 2 is going to play song 2, but also change the preset.
Intro 2.
There it went.
3, 4.
Let's hit stop. Let's go to button 3.
Intro.
It's song 3,
3,
and it also changed
4.
the preset. Stop. And then our next preset.
Intro.
So
2,
you could use
3.
this to change pad sounds at the same time. But the way that I use it mostly is I actually plug in a 5-pin MIDI cable out of here and plug it into the back of a Strymon timeline or some sort of delay pedal, and it will change my guitar player's preset. which is really helpful for him because then in between each song he's not having to get down and turn a knob and change the preset number. Now another important thing to know is that both the MIDI jack and the USB jack are linked together. So the same data or whatever is coming out of the pedal comes out of both of these at the same time, which is why you could have the USB sending MIDI to Ableton controlling program changes and starting songs, but you could also have it controlling another device. Maybe it's another computer, maybe it's a lighting board, maybe it's Pro Presenter, song 1, song 2, or slide 1, slide 2. You can get really creative with MIDI. There's a lot you can do with it. So program change mode is the same thing as default mode, except for program change mode lets you assign program changes to buttons. So that's also really great. You can still use an expression pedal. It works great. Let's go to a question here in the YouTube window. So Paul says he uses this expression pedal. That's cool. It's a very easy, affordable expression pedal. Dan says, in default mode, to trigger different parts in the song, can you briefly describe how quantizing works in Ableton? Have you ever triggered a part too early or late? It's a good question. So let's go back. Actually, we can just stay in this mode. I'm going to close out guitar rig so we can see what's happening here. And let's assign these sections again. We're going to go to song 2, go to MIDI, and let's assign these sections. The cool thing about Ableton Live is it works on something called quantization, which means it's going to wait. However, it's going to be in time, so it's not going to do what I tell it to do until the next downbeat. So right here in the top left corner of the screen, there's the quantization menu, and you can choose what Ableton's quantization is set to. So we're at 1 bar right now, which means it's going to wait until the next bar to do what I tell it to do. You could set that to 2 bars, you could set it to 4 bars, you could set it to however long you want. I feel like 1 bar is really easy because it's just very easy to play along with and sing. So I'm listening to the click. So here we go. It's 1, 2, 3, click, and then it starts the verse. 1, 2, click, go. 1, so 1, click it, and it's going to go now. So once you play around with it, it's actually very easy. And if you get off it, it's not a big deal because you just fire it on the next downbeat. Or stop the track. So hopefully that answers your question, Dan. Alright, let's go ahead and look at one of my favorite features of Looptimus, and this is called pad mode. And if you've ever been in a worship set where maybe you're playing guitar and you don't have a keyboard player to play pads underneath you, what do you do? And so we developed pad mode kind of late in the game, as far as we already had the pedal like being developed, and I thought of this mode of like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could play pads with Looptimus? So we made pad mode, and to get into pad mode, again, you just hold down the stop button and flip over to pad mode and then hit the stop button to go there. And now in pad mode, the next and previous buttons go through keys. So you can choose the key of your song. So let's just say we're going to go to the key of C. And then now buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they play the corresponding chord in that key. So button 1 is going to play the 1 chord of the key of C, which is C. 4 is going to play the 4 chord of the key of C, which is F. 5 will play the 5 chord, which is G, and so forth. So we didn't put a 7 button in there because you don't really need a 7 because it's diminished. And what these are going to do is it's going to play just fifths. So now Looptimus is acting like a piano, but for your feet. So what it's doing is it's sending out MIDI notes, and it's sending out fifths of these different chords. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and create a MIDI track. So I did that here. Just go to Create, Insert MIDI Track. And then you need to bring in an instrument. So actually, let's just go ahead and start. We'll just start from scratch. I'll make a new one. Let's go to Create, Insert MIDI Track. All right. And let's go to our plugins. I've got a plugin here that I like to use called Massive. Let's just drop it on there. And there's a pad sound in here that I really like using. It's called Summer Pad. All right. You could put any sound you wanted. And you want to make sure that this track is enabled for record, which is good. You also want to make sure that in live preferences, Looptimus is set to track, because now we're using it to actually track or play live. And now when I hit the 1 button, it's going to play the 1 chord of that instrument, that MIDI instrument. Go to 4, it's going to play the 4 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord. You can also change the octaves by holding down the next button. And now you can go down a couple octaves or up octaves. So let's go down, hit stop, hit 1, and now we're in a lower octave on the keyboard, which is a little more nice, right? So you could kind of play this pad underneath a prayer. Maybe as you're setting up a song, use it as a transition. Let's go up 1 octave. So let's go to -1. There we go. Hit 1. And then the 4. If you hit stop, it just fades out the pad or kills the MIDI notes. So this is pretty killer for transitions in songs. You could use this now. Maybe have another controller start the song. Here's Forever Rain. And you are good, when there's nothing good. And let's go to the chorus. And oh, I'm running to your arms. So something that someone's going to probably ask is, well, can you trigger tracks and play pads at the same time? And the answer is no. So you would need to have 2 Looptimus pedals or another controller triggering your tracks. So you're either using it to play pads, or you're using it to trigger tracks. You can also choose the MIDI channel by just holding this down. Choose your MIDI channel. MIDI channels save across the different modes. So if you want one mode to be in channel 6 and another mode to be in channel 2, you can do that. MIDI channels save, which is really helpful. But pad mode, I love it because then you can use it to do transitions. So let's just say that, you know, Forever Rain was in the key of C. That song ends, and now you're going to do a song in the key of B. You can go to B real quick, start at B, and then start the track.
2, 3, 4.
And then kill the pad. And then when that song's done, you could go real quick and find the, let's just go to the key of A, and we'll start the next song.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
And then you can kill the pad. So there's a lot of different ways that people are using pad mode, but that's one way you could use it in Ableton Live. Now what's cool is that all of these things work really the same in any sort of music software. So if you're using GarageBand and you go into pad mode, you could play any sort of GarageBand instrument. You could do that on your iPhone, on your iPad. You could do it in Logic Mainstage. Whatever, really. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead and type them into the comment box if you guys have questions, and I'd love to answer them. And while we're waiting on some questions, I'm going to show you how you could hook this up to your iPad to run it with our app Prime. So go ahead and type in your questions if you have any. I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to default mode. So let's go back to default mode, and I'm going to pull out my iPad. And I've got Prime here. So if you guys haven't downloaded our app Prime, this is a free app for iPhone and iPad for running multi-tracks in worship, and it's really simple to use. And so to hook up Looptimus to it, all you do is get that MIDI cable. Let me go and make sure I unplug the correct MIDI cable. That would be bad to unplug something we need. Okay, so I just unplugged Looptimus from my computer, and then there is a little adapter you can get just from Apple, camera connector kit, and it has just a USB jack on the back. I'm going to plug in the USB cable to that, just like this. And let's go ahead and plug it into the iPad or your iPhone. And you'll see that Looptimus powers up from the iPad, which is awesome. And now I can hit, gotta make sure it stays in. I can hit button 1, and it's going to start song 1 on my iPad. So let's go ahead and hit 1. And it went and started song 1 on my iPad. I could hit stop, and it's going to stop the track. Let's hit button 2, and it's going to start song 2 on my iPad.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Something that some people don't know also is you can go to all access mode with Prime, and now these buttons A and D will change the tempo, I believe, and these buttons B and E will change the pitch. Let's go and start a track.
Intro 2.
And let's change the pitch. So you can transpose the tracks from Looptimus, which is cool. You can also change the tempo. If I just slowed it down or speed it up. Hit stop, and it'll stop your tracks. So that's pretty sweet. You can use Looptimus to start and stop the tracks, and change pitch and tempo. You can also use Looptimus if I went to GarageBand on my iPad. Let's see if I've got that here. Okay, I do have GarageBand. So I just went to GarageBand, and you could just pull up a sound. Let me see here. I haven't done this in a while. So I've just got like a classic organ sound right now. And if I go into pad mode, which this is actually an important thing to know, is that when you're using an iPad or something, you probably want to turn the brightness down, because otherwise it really takes a drain on your iPad and doesn't work super well. So that's very important to know. Let me look at some questions real quick. Dan says, can you use one Looptimus to trigger parts of a song and simultaneously trigger the corresponding vocal cue? Yes, you can. And let's go ahead and look at that. It's kind of a cool. So let me plug this back into Ableton Live. So just plug the USB cable in. All right. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn the brightness down by just holding B and E, plug it in. And usually if you're running these like on an iPad and stuff, you want it to be like 4 and below. So let's just make it 4. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and set up, let's go ahead and clear all of our MIDI notes here, just to start from scratch. And we're going to be spontaneous here in live. And we're going to also send vocal cues. So I'm going to go ahead and assign on MIDI, I'm going to assign intro, verse, chorus, interlude, bridge, and then a blank track. Okay, so those are assigned. So now when I click this, it starts the verse, it starts the chorus, bridge, etc. Now notice that, I didn't assign the stop button, let's assign that. Alright, now stop is assigned. Notice that I don't have any band cues. You can put band cues in here, and what you do is I'm going to just drag in some audio files that are the band cues that I want. So if I go to my library and I go to presets and where is it? Go to samples, imported. If you have the band cue pack from Loop Community, which is a free download by the way, go to loopcommunity.com, download the band pack. I can get all these different cues.
Outro, puente,
that say different things. They're in Spanish too, which is cool. So anyways, let's bring in some cues. So I'm going to find the verse cue.
Verso do verse.
Click and drag and drop that right here on the verse. And let's find the chorus.
Chorus.
Alright, click and drag it there. Let's go ahead and set the interlude. And then the bridge. So you put in some cues here. Alright.
Bridge.
Now what we're going to do is, because notice what happens is when I hit the verse button,
Verse.
it plays that cue, but there's no time. Let's go to the chorus. And
Chorus.
playing it immediately, but that's not enough time for your band to hear what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to set the quantization of this clip to be different than our tracks. So I'm going to click on chorus, double click on it, and down here you can choose the quantization for that clip. I'm going to say none. And now it's going to really act like as if in the microphone I'm just saying verse. So whenever I hit the button, it's actually going to trigger that clip. So let's go and set them all to none. So these are going to go right away, and these are going to wait a measure still. So let's go ahead and start the song. So we're going to go to the verse.
Verse.
You are good, you are good. Let's go to the chorus.
Chorus.
And oh, I'm running to your... Let's go back to the verse.
Verse.
You are good, you are good.
Chorus.
And oh. So that's how you can use spontaneous cues at the same time. And what Looptimus is doing is it's just firing that scene. The trick is really happening in Ableton Live. So hopefully that answers your question, Dan. There's a bunch of stuff you could do here. You could set this. You could set the global to be 2 bars and then set this one to be 1 bar. But then you got to be thinking 2 bars ahead, which some people can probably do. But that's just a tip for you. Any more questions in here about Looptimus? So Looptimus is available for order if you go to, let me go and pull up a window. If you go to looptimus.com, you can order Looptimus. It's $199, and we're actually going to start shipping it I think in the next couple weeks. Right now they're on back order. They've been just so popular. We've sent out so many all around the world that we ran out pretty quickly. So if you go to looptimus.com, you can watch some videos that talk about MIDI notes and program changes and pad mode. You can download the instruction manual, watch video tutorials, here's some common questions, and then you can order it. It's $299, and we're shipping them in about 2 weeks. So if you're interested, check out looptimus.com and get your name on the list. The list is growing dramatically, so you want to get on there fast if you want to pedal.